Nancy, I hope you got your glasses on today.
I
You have to
got
be
'em
able to
right
see
here.
today.
I
Yeah.
brought two.
Okay. It is now 7:00 p.m., and I will call the meeting to order. Can I please get a roll call?
Councilors are present.
I would like to ask everyone to please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence and reflection of the many losses that we've suffered by our great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want us to remain standing?
Yes. You may now be seated.
Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. Item 3A is proclamation declaring May 15th through the 21st, 2022 Emergency Medical Services Week.
Our Deputy Chief Joe Murray is here to receive this proclamation, and Vice President Borbeck. You can do the introduction.
Beloit Official Proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams on the City of Beloit Fire Department are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore, the City Council of the City of Beloit recognizes the meaningful work that our emergency medical professionals on the City of Beloit Fire Department contribute to our community, and do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th to the 21st, 2022, as Emergency Medical Services Week. Be it further resolved that with the EMS Strong theme, EMS Week, Rising to the Challenge, the City Council of the City of Beloit encourages the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Presented the 16th day of May, 2022. Regina Duncan, Council President.
I want to thank you for this proclamation and for recognizing the EMS service providers in our area, especially the staff at the Beloit Fire Department, and the hard work that they do on a day-to-day basis, taking care of the people of this community. You know, they do an incredible job. I work with some incredible people at that department, and we have a lot of talent there when it comes to EMS and the care that they provide. I also can't forget Dr. Andrew Dean and Jody Moyer, and then of course Nicole Kavarek, who will be up here in a second. But they are vital in the work that we do by providing us with continuing education, medical control, and direction, and are obviously a very vital part of our team. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chief.
3B is proclamation acknowledging May as National Nurses Month.
Whereas registered nurses in the United States constitute our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice for registered nurses in this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing access to primary and preventive health care. And whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and preventive health care will require better utilization of all our nation's registered nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing is an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized patients, and whereas the demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging of the American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technologies, and the explosive growth of home healthcare services. And whereas more qualified registered nurses are needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community. And whereas the cost-effective, safe, and high-quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an increasingly important component of the United States healthcare delivery system in the future. And whereas, along with the American Nurses Association, the Wisconsin Nurses Association has declared May as Nurses Month with the theme, You Make a Difference, a nod to nurses' sheer numbers, their unparalleled impact during the pandemic and healthcare, and an open invitation to thank a nurse for enriching our lives and the world we live in. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit ask that all residents of this community join in honoring the registered nurses who care for all of us, celebrating their accomplishments and efforts to improve our healthcare system, and show our appreciation for the nation's registered nurses, not just during this month, but at every opportunity throughout the year. Presented the 16th day of May, 2022. Regina Duncan, Council President.
So thank you, City Council, for the proclamation, and we appreciate the support. Certainly the last couple of years have provided unique challenges for us in the healthcare system, and we've been fortunate to work with wonderful people, such as the city helped with many of our projects and efforts in taking care of patients during the pandemic. We got to work with EMS, as Joe mentioned, and we just work with a wide variety of people here in the community, and we appreciate the colleges that are putting out new nurses. We do have a community college here in town because we do need nurses, so thank you very much. Thank you.
And before we move forward, if I could, Vice President Anderson, I just wanted to introduce, that was Nicole Kavarek, and she's here from Beloit Health System. And thank you and the nurses for what you do for our community.
Item 3C is proclamation acknowledging the Lincoln Academy teachers for teacher appreciation.
Whereas the Lincoln Academy teachers are committed to providing college and career pathways for K through 12 grade scholars, and whereas the Lincoln Academy teachers create an equitable environment with rigorous instruction, joyous interactions, and strong community partnerships, And whereas the Lincoln Academy teachers ensure all students gain the skills and experiences necessary to be productive and informed residents. And whereas the Lincoln Academy teachers work tirelessly towards its goal to eventually graduate 100% of scholars from high school ready to pursue a career, enroll in college, enlist in the armed services, and live purposeful lives filled with opportunities. And whereas our community recognizes and supports the Lincoln Academy teachers in collaborating with and encouraging families to engage in their scholars' success. And whereas the Lincoln Academy teachers encourage students to develop strong characters that will grow and benefit our community, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit proclaim May 2nd, 2022 through May 6th, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit strongly encourage all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to the Lincoln Academy teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work. Presented the 16th day of May, 2022, Regina Duncan, Council President.
What an honor. Thank you so much, City Council members, for this wonderful proclamation. On behalf of our staff, and particularly our scholars, we want to thank you for your collaboration and partnership in what we're doing here for the city. Our teachers do work really hard. It is a very difficult job. Our teachers work longer days, and we're really proud of what they've been able to accomplish in just one short year, less than a year, actually. And so thank you for your partnership. Thank you for all the community, for all of your partnerships with us. And Mrs. Elamine, our school principal, would like to just say a few words.
Great.
I honestly just want to thank you all for taking the time to acknowledge the Lincoln Academy and all of the hard work that the teachers are doing on behalf of scholars. It's really, really important for us as a city to encourage one another and support one another on behalf of the city of Beloit and all of the scholars here in Beloit. So on behalf of all teachers, especially the teachers at the Lincoln Academy, we thank you, and we're really fortunate to be a part of such a caring and devoted community. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
3D is proclamation acknowledging Our Lady of the Assumption teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week.
Whereas Our Lady of the Assumption School, OLA, teachers have been encouraging and educating students in the city of Beloit since 1955. And whereas OLA school teachers maintain close ties with their community and encourage students to develop strong bonds that will benefit our community. And whereas OLA teachers are committed to nurturing students from 3K through 8th grade and preparing them for a life of service and concern for others. And whereas OLA teachers provide a quality of education centered on Catholic values, and whereas OLA leads students to develop as a whole person, promoting respect and moral responsibility. And whereas OLA teachers inspire students to mentor each other and encourage success. And whereas our community recognizes and supports Our Lady of the Assumption school teachers in collaborating with families to maintain high standards and a commitment to success. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit proclaim May 2nd, 2022 through May 6th, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit strongly encourage all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to Our Lady of the Assumption school teachers for their dedication and devotion to their week. Presented the 16th day of May, 2022. Regina Duncan, Council President.
Thank you. On behalf of Our Lady of the Assumption, I would like to say thank you to our city council members for all of your support in this proclamation. It's wonderful. No good school can facilitate without their help of their teachers and how wonderful that they do. the last several years have obviously been very difficult, and teaching is no different than that. So I just want to say thank you very much to you as a council and for your support here in Beloit. We hope our students will eventually arise to the occasion and become productive citizens. So thank you very much for your support in this proclamation.
And Vice President, if I could, just before you get started again, I didn't do an introduction. When we gave the acknowledgement for the Lincoln Academy, I just want to make sure we had Dr. Christy Cole, and who was the other person with you, Dr. Cole? Priscilla Elamine. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. And then the next person was the principal that was just here, Trevor Seaver. So thank you for being present. And now we'll acknowledge Rock County Christian School.
Whereas Rock County Christian teachers are dedicated to the task of developing spirituality and academically integrated students, and whereas Rock County Christian teachers believe they must consider every aspect of the student's growth, spiritual, intellectual, physical, social, and emotional, and whereas Rock County Christian teachers actively encourage creativity, critical thinking, self-motivation, self-control, and diligence in study habits. And whereas Rock County Christian teachers prioritize the needs of students to experience personal joy and positive achievement and to feel secure and successful. And whereas Rock County Christian teachers collaborate with parents to be responsible members of their church, demonstrate respect for authority, and become effective residents in our community. And whereas Rock County Christian teachers play an important and vital role in developing and molding the lives of children in our community. And whereas our community recognizes and supports the Rock County Christian teachers in their determination to partner with parents and churches to equip students to thrive spiritually, academically, socially, and physically. Now therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit proclaim May 2nd, 2022 through May 6th, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit strongly encourage all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to Rock County Christian teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work. Presented the 16th day of May, 2022. Regina Duncan, Council President.
And if you could introduce yourself, that'd be wonderful.
Lori Mason, Assistant Head of School.
Wonderful, thank you.
On behalf of the Rock County Christian School staff and faculty and administration, we want to thank you for this proclamation recognizing Rock County Christian School. I also want to say thank you to both Lincoln Academy and also OLA. We have been able to collaborate with them this year, and it has been an absolutely blessing to us. We just want to thank you from our teachers, our staff, for all that you've done, and it has been a blessing to be a part of the Beloit community, and we want to continue to partner with you. I know our students have done some service hours and have worked with some of the various businesses, and we want to continue that collaboration throughout the next few years.
Thank you very much.
3F is proclamation acknowledging the faculty of Beloit College for Teacher Appreciation Week.
Right. Last but not least, whereas Beloit College faculty, having been educating the residents of the city of Beloit since 1846, and whereas Beloit College faculty work tirelessly to craft meaningful relationships with students that encourages both sides to learn from each other, and whereas Beloit College faculty engage the intelligence, imagination, and curiosity of their students, empowering them to lead fulfilling lives marked by high achievement, personal responsibility, and public contribution in a diverse society. And whereas Beloit College faculty emphasize international and interdisciplinary perspectives, the integration of knowledge with experience, and close collaboration among peers, professors, and staff, equipping students to approach the complex problems of the world ethically and thoughtfully. And whereas Beloit College faculty encourage students to be observant, introspective, and pathetic to use those skills to better our community. And whereas Beloit College faculty connect students to their future careers with plans that provide academic flexibility and enhanced mentoring and advising to ensure success for the student and their community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit proclaim May 2nd, 2022 through May 6th, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit strongly encourage all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to Beloit College faculty members for their dedication and devotion to their work, presented the 16th day of May, 2022. Regina Duncan, Council President.
Good afternoon, evening, actually. Thank you so much on behalf of the faculty at Beloit College. My name is Erica Daniels, Chief of Staff and Secretary of the college, and I am joined here by two of our amazing faculty members, Britt Scharenhausen, who is a professor of physics and astronomy, and Rob LaFleur, who is professor of history. And it was just yesterday that we witnessed 200 plus graduates during the commencement ceremony that was held on Middle College lawn, and I must say that this is a testament to the work that our faculty members do. I work with some amazing faculty members, and they continue to conduct research and go above and beyond for our students, and this is why they do it. So I am going to get out of the way and allow Britt or Rob to say a word. Thank you.
On behalf of the faculty and staff at Beloit College, thank you so much for this recognition, and we couldn't be prouder to be members of the Beloit community. We are striving all the time to connect our students with the community and get them off campus and get them out and experiencing all that the city of Beloit has to offer. So, thank you.
I just wanted to say again, thank you on behalf of the faculty, but on top of that, I'm in awe of the faculty members and staff members I work with. My colleague here is an actual rocket scientist. And it's a different kind of teaching we have to do at this level, where our scholarship connects with the teaching, and I've never seen it better done than my colleagues at Beloit College, who bring from their research, which might be very technical, they bring it right to their students and create a new generation after new generation of teachers, scholars, and community members. So thank you very much to the City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say on behalf of our entire council, we are so grateful for our teachers and our nurses who are working hard every day to make our community a better place, and the teachers that are working with our students. Just a heartfelt thank you for all of your hard work. Much appreciated. And if you like, you don't have to stay for our entire meeting. We have a ways to go, so if you want to leave at this time, you're certainly welcome to do so. Thank you again. The next item. We were going to move an item up on the agenda, 11A. So if the clerk could go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to move 11A, the Quality of Life Survey presentation by Quint Studer.
Well, thank you very much. My name's Quint Studer. I guess here I'm the owner of the Sky Carp, but my main job is healthcare. In fact, today I did a webinar at University of Florida School of Medicine and ended up at Mayo Clinic doing their workshop. And I'll tell you a little bit about me. I had came to Pensacola to be president of the hospital, and from Holy Cross Hospital in Chicago, and ended up starting my own company and traveled a lot. And as I traveled a lot, I ran into Jim Clifton of Gallup. And he talked to me about healthcare, but we had a sidebar conversation, and he said they'd just done the biggest study on economic development in the history of Gallup. And he's so proud of what Gallup has done. He shows all these things that he thinks he's made a difference, from women's rights to civil rights and so on. So I said, what's it about? He said, well, it's about why do some communities thrive and some don't. And of course, it's easy to think it's location, but that's not true. I'm from Pensacola, Florida, and for a long time, we didn't do well. And I'll tell you why. Yet we're in a nice location. We got white beaches, the whole bit. Portland, Maine's, I don't think, in the greatest location. It was a little chilly there, but they seem to do really well. So he did a study, and I got interested in it. So when I came back to Pensacola, started working on really putting into place the things that he suggested. Many of the things actually you already have done in Beloit through some of the work and the philanthropy of some of the people in this community, some really amazing, amazing things, and so on. And though what would happen periodically is things would get stopped, and sometimes they'd get stopped without factual information. I don't know if you've ever had this in Beloit, but somebody will say, here's how everybody feels. Everybody's upset. Everybody's angry. In fact, in healthcare, people used to come up to me and say, all the physicians are upset. And I'd say, they're not all upset because they've never all agreed on anything in their whole life. So, and then even elected officials, I'm sure you would never do this, would say things like, my constituency. Well, how many people are we really talking about? And then social media gets going. And not that you shouldn't look at it, but is there more specifics to do? So in 2008, I created a not-for-profit called the Studer Community Institute, and the first thing we did was created a dashboard for the community to take the main quality of life things, such as median income going up. If you want to know whether your quality of life is going up, is your population going up? Cities that have great quality of life see their population going up. Their median income goes up. More children are having better education, and I'll talk about that a little bit, and so on. So I created this dashboard. The other thing we decided to do was hire a company to measure quality of life. So with that, it's interesting because today, and I'll explain why, most cities I go to and for a workshop like Lafayette, Louisiana, or Odessa, Texas, or Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'll be in Norman, Oklahoma coming up next week. I'll be in Asheville, North Carolina next week, and San Diego, California. Most people get up and they say, we have great quality of life. And they all believe it. But shouldn't we measure it? If it's that important, shouldn't we measure it? Because I believe we measure things that are really, really important. So we went out and searched for a company, the best company to measure quality of life. And our first survey was done in 2008. By the Mason-Dixon Company, and we've done one ever since. Some years are better than others, but they've helped us look at what's going on. Our first survey, and one of the reasons I did it is because there was disagreement on where's the community moving in the right direction. One of the key questions is the community moving in the right direction, and we were at 26% of the people felt the community was moving in the right direction. So at least that got everyone to say, okay, even though I might feel it is, but the general population might not. So started doing it. Then what happened is I write books, and my publicist said, you should write a book, and I thought it was going to be on leadership. That's what I normally write about. And they said, no, write one on building community. And I said, I'm sure there's a lot of books on building community. She said, but usually they're by urban planners. They've never been someone who's been through a referendum, been sort of negatively hit on social media, and just the grit and the grind it takes to create change in a community is really hard. And I commend you for being in an elected office. So anyway, we started the survey, and we've done it, and I'll sort of walk through that. Now, tomorrow I'm doing an hour-and-a-half one, and I actually could do this, and I've done it a day and a half. So you're going to get a real Cliff Notes, and I just want you to understand that. So if we look at it, it was done in March to March 13th. And the reason I like it is it's Mason-Dixon makes these decisions. They actually pick the questions. In fact, in Pensacola, when the first survey came out that showed we weren't doing well, somebody said, well, he picked the questions because he's paying for it. I don't, but I said to them, if they want to pick the questions, they can pay for it. So, and reality is, the questions are standard questions, but you can add some non-standard questions as you go along. This is the baseline. So I hope everybody looks upon it as the baseline. I appreciate all the collaboration here in Beloit. I know it was Visit Beloit, the Economic Development of Beloit, the City of Beloit, I think Visit Beloit, I think Beloit Chamber. There were 5 different organizations, and it takes a lot of guts to do this. It's easier just to play in vagueness and just to say, this is my opinion. So this takes a lot of courage. In fact, I offered it to another city in Pensacola that turned it down. So anyway, this is real interesting, and I love the fact that Beloit had the courage to do this. They looked at, try to also look at demographics. So they literally have a sophisticated system that if you have this many people at certain ages, certain incomes, certain races, they get it down so it truly does represent the community's diversity. Because people say, well, only the unhappy, only this, and so on. So there's a 95% probability. So you're never going to get something that represents the entire community as fairly as this one, and you can have all the data. All the data is yours. You can dig into as much detail. You can get by race how people feel, by income how people feel, on education how people feel, and so on. So this is my little slide that I created. And I think when you look at quality of life, the first thing is, do people feel safe? Because that's really number one on Maslow's theory. If people don't feel safe, it's really hard. But what else makes quality of life? We call it the civic IQ. In Pensacola, every 6 weeks or maybe every month, we bring in an outside expert to share best practice. You don't have to worry about this, but last week it was rising sea levels because of where we are at. In June, it's Dana Suskin, who's the expert on early brain development, will be in town. And we've had people on parking, on racial equity, achievement gap from Harvard, because we really want to raise that civic IQ, because we think if everybody has more knowledge about, if you reduce the speed limit to 25, if people get hit, they will live. 35, 4 out of 10 will die. At 35, 45, 8 out of 10. So when you reduce the speed limit, not everybody goes yippee-yi-yay. But maybe if they know the goal isn't speed limit, the goal is saving lives, they might understand that. Vibrancy of downtown shows, because Gallup research shows, if you want to keep talent, and the number one thing, if you want to know what makes or breaks cities, it's talent. What cities keeping their talent home, getting their talent back, and getting some new talent? It all comes down to talent. So a vibrant downtown is not necessary because that's what young people want. Actually, even people my age are wanting it now. So it's sort of interesting. Economic development is a little different than what you might think of. I don't mean about attracting companies from outside. That's nice. Economic development is 90-something% of the jobs are still local businesses. So how do we grow the local businesses? And you do some great work there through some of the entrepreneurship and small business development. And education. And normally when people think of education, they think of K through 12. Just a little bit about where I live. Escambia County is the second poorest county in the state of Florida. It has one of the worst school districts in the state of Florida, and it has some of the most diverse population in the state of Florida. Yet over the last 10 years, we've exploded in population, even with an education system that many people in our survey says is lacking. But when you think of education, it's a long-range plan. Education starts in prenatal care. And 80 to 85% of the brain is developed by age 3. So on Friday, I'll be talking to the state line literacy. So it really comes down to getting kids ready for kindergarten. And one of the things the survey did, because you can ask some non-standard questions, 2 years ago we asked people in our county, would you be willing to pay an extra tax if it would go to help children in education, particularly in the poor areas? And it passed. After the survey said absolutely people will support it. So now we have an extra $8 million to go into areas to help children that might not have an even playing field at times. So when you get those 4 or 5 things right, they all work together to make quality of life. So one of the first questions here is, do you think the Beloit area is moving on the right track or wrong track? 49%, I happen to have these in, 49% I believe it was, even though it's not on there, somewhere was in the right track. 29% on the wrong track, and 24% were not sure. Now, remember what I told you about Pensacola and Escambia County? We started out at 26. The beauty about this is not the wrong track, it's the fact that it's the not sure. Because from doing this for a lot of cities, if you can get up in the 60s moving on the right track, you're never going to get to over 69. If you can get 70% of the people to be with you, you've hit a grand slam home run. We had a pollster come into Pensacola, and he did ask a question, and the question basically, one of the questions they ask is something that everyone should say yes to, and then they track how many people say no to a question that they think should be a yes, and that's how much negativity you have in your community. And we had a little over 30-something% of our people said no, even to the most positive question. His comment was, if God came to Pensacola to put heaven downtown, people would say, we don't want a great gated community in our area. So the reality is, that's you got the wrong track, but the key is moving the not sure's. Because you move the not sure's, you're at 63% moving in the right direction. I think that's a real positive for this. You're starting out a little higher than most start out in their baseline. And I would guess, if you did this 5 years ago, it'd be a little less people on the right track, because you've doing a lot of really good things here in Beloit. So then the question is, what's the most important issue facing Beloit? And as you can see, crime and public safety dominates the area. I think even though you wish it wasn't that, there's something that's going to be higher. I will tell you that's a little higher than norm. So it's, sometimes usually the highest one's in the 20s and you're in the 40s. But now there is good news. You don't have a lot to focus in on. Now the other thing about the survey, it could be your crime rate's low, but people don't perceive it that way. By the way, here's what everybody wants to say. When did you do the survey? I think there was a shooting that night. Or when was this? We sort of get into rationalization, rationalizing the results away, or we get into a little bit of denial. The results are the results. And so what happens is, when you look at it, you have the safeties issue. And that's pretty much really good, because that means you don't have to focus on 5 things or 6 things. It's really one thing, as you'll see as we go through here. You can go a little deeper, and I'll walk through that. It also doesn't mean the things that are ranked low are not important. It's just some take the mindset. So it doesn't mean traffic and roads aren't important, social issues aren't important, housing isn't important. Those are all important, but the fact that you've got a couple of them, like public safety, education, and economic issues, sort of dominate, and they take precedence over some of these other things. Also doesn't mean you don't focus on them. For example, in Lafayette, Louisiana, one of their challenges is just keeping young people home. Yet only 1 or 2% think downtown's a big deal, until they realize in order to keep young people home, we've got to move downtown up on the priority list. So then we go into rating, and they give them 4 ratings, which is excellent, good, fair, and poor. And these are things that they use throughout the country. As you can see, you might hear about traffic, but this is like the best traffic I've ever seen. This is like, you need more traffic problems. Anyway, because when people complain about parking and traffic, you probably got a lot of good things going on actually in your community. Outdoor playgrounds, extremely high that people are satisfied with that. You should feel really great about this. Welcoming people of diverse backgrounds, ethnicity, and culture. I just came back from Bentonville, Arkansas. The Walton family does a 2-day retreat called Heartland Summit. They invite 300 people from around the country. And again, if we're going to have great talent, you got to have a welcoming community to diversity, and you certainly score higher than most cities that I've been to in that arena. Availability of quality health care, you do quite well there. Job opportunities for you in the household, but you're going to see that flips a little bit on some economic concern. Higher education, to have you have UROC, you have Blackhawk Tech, you have Beloit College, you're just loaded with post-high school education. And public transportation probably isn't as big a deal here with the population, but it's actually not, it's sort of in the middle. So what we go to then is, what are some negative ratings? And you can see where the public safety, now that does not mean your police are not doing a good job. It could be a messaging issue, or it's actual factual objective issue. And that's what you have to find out. Marquise, you talked today about someone that called you about roads and things like that, and you look at lights, you look at everything. So That's really a key. The second one is a vibrant nightlife for all. And what happens in any downtown is, and you've made tremendous progress, but you have to keep going. We studied downtowns. People want certain things in downtowns, and you've got a lot of it. You've made great movement, but it's still something you can't take your eye off, and so on. It's sort of nice today to look at ABC Supply Stadium and see the Little League's opening day there and have all those kids and all those people just enjoying the community. Quality of public education, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, because sometimes people look at that and they go, well, that's why people won't live in our area. Not true. Because who can you attract that's not dependent on public education? Young people and older people. We have the exact same issue in Pensacola. Yet our population's been exploding with people that don't have children and people that are empty nesters, because they want to live closer to where the action is. Where the action is downtown. And then you go into effective officials, and you might say, oh, that's bad. That's actually one of the better scores that we've seen, because people are pretty down these days on elected officials overall. Affordable housing, you're doing some good work there. In fact, we brought ACTS, who you're using, down to Escambia County to do a presentation not too long ago. Again, these are things, as you've heard, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And you're doing a lot of that planting in the last 4, 5, 6 years. Cultural opportunities, and that impacts your downtown vibrancy, is the cultural opportunities and so on. And then a shared economic growth, so a shared vision of it and so on. So as you look at that, you've got that, and then you've got that. But I would really focus in on the top one as the main one. So rate overall quality of life. So when you overrate, that's the key question. What's the overall quality of life? And you're at a 56. Now what's really nice is, I think this is wrong, because I think our total negative adds poor and just fair or good or excellent. But if you look at, and let's look a little deeper into this, you only have 6% of the people that are totally negative, poor. You have 38% that think it's just fair. So as we move those just fairs into the good or excellent, that's where the magic happens. When you get about 60-something% of your people feeling you're moving in the right direction, and when that moves, then this number, as you notice, this number's a little bit higher by about 8 to 9 or 10. That moves this number into the 70s then. And then you get that word of mouth that you get. And you're getting it right now about Beloit. So, as we close, what are the opportunities? Perception of safety. That's the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunity. Messaging. I think messaging is important. When I was again in Bentonville, Arkansas this week, we talked an awful lot about storytelling. If you have not watched the HBO movie called Our Towns by James and Deb Fallows, in fact, I hope to bring them here for the film festival. I've had them in Pensacola before, and they studied towns, and not big cities. The people that have been struggling in America are small and mid-market cities, where our talent goes to different places. I used to say in Janesville, when their biggest advertising in Janesville is come here because we're close to Madison, Milwaukee, and Chicago. So I don't think that's a good advertising brand. I think what you should say is come here to Beloit. Why? Advertise there, because it's easy to get to from those areas. We don't want people going there. We want people going from there and coming here. And there's a lot to say for small and mid-market cities if you've been following up what's going on where people want to live and virtual. The other thing about first generation or people under 30, young people, Generation Z, they look for place before they look for job. That wasn't me. When I graduated from University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, I got a job and then said, can we live there? That's how I thought. Today, people pick place, then they look for the job. And you're really in a neat place, because also young people want diversity. They want a little bit cutting edge, a little bit edgy. I like that. So one of the neat parts about it is, how do you tell the story? And if you watch that film, Our Town, you'll understand how you have to tell the story. And that's what they did. And by the way, you study, even though you're not in the book, you're very similar if you read it. Most towns your size, Pensacola size, that thrive have a patriot investor, they call it. somebody that grew up there or moved there, their company flourished, and they invest back into the city. And of course, you've been really fortunate to have one of the best patriotic investors in the country. Quality of life, only 6% rated the quality of life poor, 38% rated it fair. Again, it's moving those middles over a little bit and keep progressing in culture opportunities, vibrant nightlife, and entertainment. So here, let me tell you my story. You know, I'm not from here, but I go to a lot of communities. Sometimes an outside person sees things that people that live there all the time might not see. You are doing exciting things in entrepreneurship. We brought Chi Beta to Pensacola after seeing it here work. You are doing some incredible things in entrepreneurship. You have to tell that story. You are doing some great work on a revitalized and a programming of your downtown. You'll have additional educational opportunities. And what that means is, I believe the Lincoln Academy will help your public school system. And I think because all of these work together, and as people see what works, they share it. Nobody wants to hide it. We all want to make it better. We can learn from the public school system, from the private school system, because we're all in this together. So you have a lot of people here in education. I had a story. My grandson applied at the Lincoln Academy. He didn't get in. Anyway, and he couldn't get off the waiting list. And I thought, I respect them for that. I respect them if they're not making an exception. I thought that was pretty cool. I complimented them on what they did. You are a success in building local business and attracting new businesses if you look at what's going on. You have research, not just comments, but you have research that shows that you're a welcoming community to people of diverse backgrounds, ethnicity, and culture. And there's a lot of collaboration that goes on here, as you can tell from all the groups that got involved in this. So I think the main thing is, outside of that one issue, is how do we tell the story? And how do we continue to tell the story? And this is my last slide. It always seems impossible till it's done. When I first became president of Baptist Hospital, I said our goal is to create the best hospital in the country. Somebody came up to me and said, "You mean county?" I said, "No, I mean country." I don't know if we did it, but we did end up winning the Malcolm Baldrige Award. We ended up winning a lot of awards for quality care that we provided, and that's what started my company. So I think it's exciting. I think Beloit's continue to be at a cusp of greatness, and the only thing that will take us back is us not thinking big enough. So anyway, tomorrow we'll be going a lot more detail. This is all public. There's no secrets. You can look at it. You can study it by income. You can study it by race. You can study it by age. You can study it by education. So thank you for the opportunity to present today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clint, thank you for being here, but before you leave, I just want to see if any counselors had any comments they wanted to give. I know that I am certainly grateful for you doing the study and putting your funds into it, but also caring about the community. So does any other counselors, would you have any questions?
I'd like to say something. First of all, thank you for presenting and talking to us about it. I took some notes myself, and I found, like, just being a citizen here in Beloit, born here in Beloit, born and raised, and been here, 32 years old now. I've been here like all my life, and I kind of can address some of the issues of what the survey was probably taking up. We have a median income in Beloit about $40K a year, which is, for people like myself, like it's like $40K and under what the median income here is in Beloit, which is with the cost of housing here, we got people spending up to like $1,000, up to $1,000, $1,200 on just like a 2-bedroom house. That's not something that the council can really do much about, but I'm just addressing why some of these issues become a factor. Like for myself, it's like my rent is going up, our rent as well, and it's hard to keep up with my bills sometimes. So with that happening, it's driving, it's causing me not to be able to support like a lot of small business, local businesses, because I'm having to spend so much towards having to live in Beloit and whatnot. And when there's like single parent households of like 2 or 3 kids living in there, that's also a factor of what could drive up the crime rate. When single parent households are struggling to take care of their kids, and kids are just on the streets with nothing to do. That causes them to get in trouble, which is part of the reason why I ran for council, because that's something that I understand. It's like kids everywhere just like getting in a lot of trouble because they have nothing to do, and their parents are not being able to afford for them to get involved in a lot of activities because everything is so high here in Beloit. So, like, I mean, I don't want to say everything is so high, but it's just like people just not being able to afford, like, the housing issues that we do have in Beloit, which I say the council can only do so much about. That's also that's a factor in some of like the research that you've done. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And then, like, with these costs, as far as like people are having to live in Beloit and the median income, that's also like, I always say it's kind of like, you know, causing the local economy to kind of be in bad shape a little bit because, you know, people not being able to spend their money at some of these small businesses here in Beloit. So those are like issues that I ran on and things that I want to address and try to find ways that the council can work on that. So thank you again for that survey, but I kind of wanted to dig into why some of your research was the way it was a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you,
Anytime you want to talk, look into it, have anything you want to do, want to talk to Larry Mason. I think that's also why it's so important to attract more people to Beloit for
And I
these
think
local
you talked about that,
businesses
too.
and grow your population. Because your population's been flat and you
Thank-
want to pop it up.
Thank you, Councilor Terrell. And I think that Quint was saying that you would be
Oh,
sharing
yeah.
more information tomorrow.
Yeah.
Were there any other councilors? Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, Quentin, thank you so much for this. It was really interesting to see it. I like looking at numbers, and it's really eye-opening to see them. For those of us that can't make it tomorrow, is there a place that we could see this after the fact and maybe look at the information in greater depth?
Yeah, we'll see if it's videotaped. I hope it is. If not, we'll see if we can pull that off by now. And then if you want to come back and do a council workshop someday or something like that, just let me know. Because I think, you know, this is just like getting on a scale and weighing yourself. This doesn't tell you how to do it. It just tells you where it's at. But there are a lot of best practices out there that you see in various and you have a lot of them. But sometimes it just takes a lot longer than we think.
Councilor Levy.
I think it was interesting, one of the things that you pointed out, first of all, great job. And I'm looking forward to seeing the entire thing as well. But I think when we talk about public safety, I think you hit on it very well when you said when the survey was taken, if there was an act of any violence the night before, naturally that's going to rise to the top. So, and I'm not saying that happened, but.
Well, I don't think I said it right then.
Right.
I said it wrong. What I'm saying is, that's probably not going to move the number.
Right.
That's what people want to always use as a reason
Right.
why something's.
But I think to the altar that if something did happen, then naturally, if I'm going to take a survey, public safety, in my opinion, is a big issue.
Could.
And I think the other piece that you said that has been working, especially under Chief Sales, is the messaging has been getting out. That when crimes are being solved and things are happening, we're seeing that message get out more than we have seen in the past. So I think that people are more aware of what's happening when crimes are being solved. So I think we're going to eventually see that number kind of come down a little bit as well.
It really means I even hired a chief storyteller for our town because you need somebody out there all the time telling not only what's wrong but what's right. What's right? Because sometimes as a human being, we look at what's wrong, not what's right. You know, we don't go home and say the traffic was good. We go home and say the traffic was bad. Nobody calls facilities and engineering to say temperature's good. It's temperature's bad. And I think part of, again, Beloit I ended with that stories. You have a lot of positive things because the more people you get in, the better safety gets to. There's more eyes on it, things like that. Growing the population, and of course, lighting up a city is important. Anything else?
Anything else? Councilor Blakely.
Oh, thanks, Madam President. Thank you so much. I hope you can understand me through
Well,
the
you know, I'm
mask.
hearing impaired, so I read lips, so this thing has been pretty tough.
Here we go.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to thank you. I found it very inspiring, and I really appreciate what you have to say about the almosts being moved up,
Yes.
you know, into the positive area. I mean, that applies both for attitudes toward the city and accomplishments of the city too, from things almost being there, or as You quoted Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. I'm going to write that down and keep it in plain sight at home as well.
And you're closer than you think. Because you're at 49% moving right direction. If you can move that 20, then you get the confidence to invest, the confidence to stay, the confidence to move. We have a great example right here. Behind me are the Brockmans. That's Zach Brockman, who's president of the Beloit Sky Carp, and his wife, Summer. And they moved here from Modesto, California. And they could have lived anywhere when they took the job in Beloit. They could have lived in Illinois. They could have lived in North Rock County. They could have lived anywhere. And where did they find a home? In Beloit, Wisconsin. And they have a 2-year-old daughter named Summer, who's now, is she still potty trained? Slowly. So it's pretty exciting that they came into Beloit, that we were able to attract them, and that they found a home in Beloit. And I think that's really exciting. And today's their wedding anniversary, so what a great place to spend it. Thank you for anything. I'll be available. My cell phone number is 850-232-4648. My email is Quint. Those of you watching virtually or watching TV, it's Quint, Quint, at QuintStuder, STUDER.com. And I'm always available, and just share the stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we're looking forward to working with you, and hopefully we'll have it on our website, on the City of Beloit website in the future too, once we get the finality of that. So thank you. Next, we'll go to item 4.
Item 4 is public hearings. There were none. Item 5 is public comments.
Thank you. We have now reached the point on the agenda for residents to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. Council members may not act on any requests at this meeting, but may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you please hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks of any kind. Public comment is a courtesy, and we expect everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Speakers are asked to complete a public comment form. Madam Clerk, were there any public comment forms submitted prior to this meeting?
No.
Are there any of the members of the public who are here that want to speak who did not sign up today? Public comment is now closed.
Item 6 is consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Would any counselor like any item moved from the agenda? Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 6A through 6D? Is there a
I
motion?
so move.
Moved by Councilor Blakely, seconded by Forbeck, Vice President Forbeck. At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion at this time? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That's it, motion carries.
Item 7 is licenses. 7A is consideration of Resolution 2022-087, approving renewals of alcohol beverage licenses for license period July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. ABLCC recommendation for approval was 6-0.
This is a resolution. May I please have a motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Day. Are there any questions or discussion? At this time, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that said, motion carries.
7B is consideration of application for an amendment of a Class B beer and Class B intoxicating liquor license for Bushel and Peck's 328 State Street, premise description for period ending June 30th, 2022.
This is also a resolution. May I please have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Terrell. Are there any questions or discussion at this time? There's a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
7C is consideration of Resolution 2022-90, considering the application of a new Class A beer and Class A liquor license for Quick Trip Incorporated, 3155 Prairie Avenue. Adam License Agent, ABLCC recommendation for approval was 6-0.
This is a resolution, so may I please have a motion to approve the
So moved.
resolution? Moved by Councilor Terrell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any questions or discussion?
Question.
Go ahead, Councilor Levy.
Looking at this, I struggled quite honestly with this, and I did have a discussion with the city attorney. I understand that. I just remember years ago, and maybe over 5 or 10 years ago, that we were looking at convenience store type gas stations such as this, having the alcohol near the highway, the interstate, where kids could buy it, or anyone could buy it and get on the highway. But I think reviewing the new ordinances that we've passed within the last 5 years or so, and I hate to put the city attorney on the spot, if she could kind of summarize the changes that have been made to the ordinance within the last 5 years, because quite honestly, we had a good conversation, because I was struggling with this and saying that what have we done in the past? And I'm one for always saying let's be consistent. So I'm saying if we're going to look at this and move this forward for approval, then I'm sure that there's going to be an individual coming forward who we denied this over 5 years ago under the old ordinance that may be coming back. And I just want us to keep that in mind as we look at consistency, because it's a new ordinance that we are moving forward. And I just see if you could summarize that for me.
Sure. If many of your counselors were on the council at the time that you've held several workshops regarding the issue of Class A licenses, and what was discussed at those workshops and ultimately passed in ordinance form was a geographic restriction that limited your Class A establishments to no closer than 1,050 feet from each other. Any license that was already granted under the old system was grandfathered in essentially, but any new license applications would have to maintain that separation from another Class A establishment. There is a process to receive a waiver of that rule, and that would come before you for a decision. With this particular establishment, it is not within 1,050 feet of another City of Beloit licensee, so there isn't any particular issues with that ordinance that was passed just about a year ago or so. Councilor Levy and I did discuss at length in the history of Class A licenses and whether or not the council should put a quota on Class A licenses, or whether or not they should be in the convenience stores or the pharmacies, your CVS, Walmart, or Walgreens, and the like. And no ordinances ever came from those discussions, but it certainly was a concern of the council members. So that being said, the only ordinance that has been changed in those last 5 years just does relate to the geographic restriction of those Class A establishments.
Thank you. And so just in summary, there's been a revision to what we discussed, and I want Quick Trip to understand there's nothing against Quick Trip at all, but I'm always saying let's be consistent. So that's why I had a great length of discussion with the city attorney saying, where are we at? Because before, near the highway, we didn't want it there. So why are we looking at Quick Trip, being a big organization, but we have local vendors that we're saying no to? And I just say we need to be fair and prepare ourselves that if we move forward with Quick Trip, if local vendors come forward, we need to make sure that we are looking at that ordinance and making sure that we're following that, but also being consistent and not just saying, well, they're Quick Trip, they're national, they this and that and the other, but the local vendor, the local people, well, it's because they're in this neighborhood and blah, 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 blah. We just have to be consistent.
If I may, Councilor
I was just going to say, Attorney Kruger, can you please add to that? Because my question is, how, if we were to support Quick Trip, how is that not being consistent? So
No, I'm not saying we're not being consistent. I'm saying if we support Quick Trip, if another vendor, local vendor comes forward and saying they want to put alcohol in their establishment, that was turned down 5 years ago because of an old ordinance.
Right.
I want us to be consistent in considering that person as well. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all that I'm saying. Did I make that
Attorney
clear?
Kruger, can you add to this, please?
Well, I can clarify what I think, and Councilor Levy, please correct me if I'm wrong. Years and years ago, there was a staunch position from some of the council that alcohol sales should not be at those convenience stores.
Right.
That policy decision was never reduced to an ordinance. It was just held by those members serving on the city council. So I think what Councilor Levy is suggesting is that if someone had had a license denied in the past, based on that policy or that belief in having alcohol at convenience stores, that we be consistent with our decisions moving forward, that if we're not having a problem with it today, we want to not have a problem with that in the future, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But you don't have anything reduced to an ordinance that does outline those concerns of those counselors so many years ago. The only thing that resulted from those workshops when you were discussing alcohol in general was just that geographic restriction. There wasn't a quota placed on Class A licenses, and there wasn't any restrictions on the type of establishment that could obtain a Class A license. We strictly limited it to that geographic restriction of not being too close to another similar Class A licensee.
And that has to do with the density.
That is, yes. It's also referred to as density of Class A licenses, the geographic restriction. Yes, it is.
City Manager Luther?
I just want to make it clear for the record that Quick Trip is not requesting, nor is any kind of exception to the ordinance required. So their application was submitted and recommended unanimously from the ABLCC Commission back to council. I know we've been talking about application of the city's ordinance, and so just to make it clear to the public watching, no exception to that ordinance or the geographic restrictions and city limits is being asked to be considered for any kind of waiver. So this is compliant as presented with the city's current ordinance.
Correct, and I apologize if it came out that way, but I just want to make sure.
I don't know that it did.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be super sure.
Okay, all right.
And I appreciate that clarity. Thank you. Are there any other, thank you, Councilor Levy. Are there any other further questions or discussion? At this time, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. That said, motion carries.
Eight is ordinances. 8A is consideration of ordinance number 3751 to amend section 18.02 sub 15 sub U of the Code of the General Ordinances of the City of Beloit, authorizing outdoor vending for an annual event sponsored by Beloit Meals on Wheels, incorporated in Wooten Park. Second reading.
Councilor Anderson?
Madam President, at this time I'll be stepping out of the room because I'm on the board of directors for the Beloit Meals on Wheels.
For the record, Councilor Anderson will abstain from this item. This is a second reading of the ordinance. May I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Levy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Blakely. Are there any questions or discussion at this time? We now have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That said, motion carries. Councilor Anderson is returning to the room. 8B, please.
8B is consideration of ordinance number 3753, annexing the property located at 1014 Master Street to the City of Beloit. First reading.
At this time, Julie Christensen will present. She's our Community Development Director.
Mary Davies, who is the owner of 1014 Master Street, has submitted a petition for direct annexation to the City of Beloit. She owns an existing single-family dwelling on the property. The existing septic system is failing and needs to be replaced. She would like to be connected to the city's sanitary sewer system. This property is located within the city's 208 sewer service area. Basically, the Rock County Water Quality Plan specifies that this area should be served by the city's public sanitary sewer system. We put this line in a number of years ago, and for a developer on the other side of the street, and so I'm guessing we'll see more of these over time. We did notify the state and the town of Beloit clerk of this annexation request. Plan Commission reviewed it on May 4th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the annexation. This is on your agenda for first reading tonight.
Thank you, Julie. This is the first reading of this ordinance. May I please have a motion to lay this ordinance over?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Terrell. Are there any questions or discussion? At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8C is consideration of ordinance 3752 to repeal and recreate sections 1.13 and 1.14 sub 1 and sub 2 of the Code of General Ordinances of the City of Beloit pertaining to city electoral ward boundaries and polling places. First reading.
Next, we will have a presentation from Eric Miller.
Hi, good evening. So back in November, we went through a redistricting process as a result of the 2020 census. During that time, we redrew the ward maps in conjunction with the new supervisory district boundaries within Rock County. So since that time, we have had a congressional redistricting, which did make some minor adjustments to some of those boundary maps that were drawn back in November. And so we have redrawn the maps to include those redistrict boundaries. We did have to add 7 additional ward maps to the city, so we now have 30. There were no additional polling places that were added in this redistricting. They simply took some from our existing wards, moved them into a new ward, still within the same polling place that they voted at last time. We have included a map in the packet that you saw that shows those new wards. They are quite small, but it's just part of the overall process that we have to go through. In order for this ordinance to make it to Rock County and to the state in a timely manner, we are requesting the council to suspend the rules this evening to do a first and second reading to vote on the ordinance. I'd be happy to take any questions you'd have at this time.
Thank you, Eric. May I please have a motion to suspend the rules to have both the first and second reading approved?
I so move.
Moved by Councilor Blakely. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any questions or discussion?
I just have a comment. Thank you for preparing this so we can be in time. I know that this has been, it hasn't been a local decision to make this so difficult. So we're trying to make it not difficult for you. So thanks to staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's it. Motion carries. Thank you, Eric.
Do we have to take a vote on the merits then?
Okay. So can we have a vote on the merits? Is there a motion?
I so move.
There's a motion by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Anderson. And we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 8D is consideration of ordinance number 3748 to create section 1.16 of the Code of the General Ordinance of the City of Beloit pertaining to virtual meetings of and remote attendance of meetings of authorities, boards, committees, commission, and council. First reading.
This is a first reading of this ordinance. May I please have a motion to lay this over?
I so move.
Moved by Vice President Forbeck. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Day. Are there any questions or discussion? At this time, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Would you like a brief presentation on the ordinance so that the public is aware of the contents?
Why don't you go ahead and do a clarification on that?
I believe City Manager Luther is the presenter on this item, but I think that it would be best if we had something on the record indicating what the ordinance topic was.
City Manager Luther?
So this proposed ordinance that, once laid over, will be ready for action at the next council meeting, will provide the presiding officer of any of our governing bodies, be it the city council or any of the boards, commissions, etc., to allow virtual attendance at meetings for those individuals. And the purpose of this particular ordinance is because prior to COVID, it was generally expected that individuals would be in person. And we learned throughout the pandemic that it was possible to use virtual tools to assist us. And we wanted to ensure, however, there were clear rules and expectations about how that participation would occur in the future. So this sets up some criteria and specifies that any quasi-judicial meetings where that body is serving as example as a hearing officer, or where a hearing officer is presenting facts into evidence, that those must be conducted in person. And it reminds participants that closed session items, if virtual attendance is allowed, must be treated as if they were in person, and that information must be private. So the proposed ordinance does present those specific criteria and allows for the possibility of participating virtually in up to 25% of the meetings in a given year, which was a percentage already established for attendance for appointed representatives to other committees and boards. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or defer to the city attorney if I missed any of the significant points, but wanted to alert the public that we are looking to regulate and officially provide the opportunity for virtual attendance in the future.
Did you have any additions to that, Attorney Friesen?
No, just that I think it codifies, you've had several workshops regarding this topic, and I think it does a good job of setting the parameters by which virtual meetings can be called, and also how remote attendance can happen at any meetings in case a member is not able to appear. This should help us with some quorum issues that we are having with our committees, boards, and commissions, and I think puts forth a very clear framework for how those things will take place for not only council, but also those boards and committees and commissions.
Thank you for that clarification, and that's good to have, because maybe we'll have more people get involved and more people showing up at the committee meeting, so thank you for that. Next, we'll move on to 9 appointments. Did we get a motion and a second on that one?
There are no appointments this evening.
Okay. Oops.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, did we have a vote on the motion to lay the matter over?
No, they did a motion and a second, but they did not vote.
Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Please say nay. That said, motion carries. 9, it was appointments, and there are none, so we'll go on to 10.
10 is counselor activities and upcoming events.
Let's begin with Councilor Day.
Thank you. I get to go first. That's great. I took a couple of notes for everybody. Just I think the city of Beloit's had a pretty good month. We have 2 major things happen to us here. So the first was I had the honor and privilege to attend the USS Beloit Christening. So I represented the city council with Councilor Levy and Anderson. It was a spectacular event. Thank you, guys. I got to witness the launch of a 390-foot ship side launch. Made a pretty big splash. It was pretty exciting. So if you get a chance, watch the video because it is amazing. Also want to acknowledge City Manager Luther. I think your remarks during the ceremony were outstanding. Really did a nice job. And then also the staff that helped. A shout out to them with Jen, Mindy, Brandy, Sarah for the work that they did on this event. Because I know Jen said she worked for the Navy for a whole month. That was a proud day for anybody that's from Beloit, for sure. Especially anybody associated with Fairbanks Morris. 100 years in service building engines, so pretty amazing. And we also had good news on Friday. So we've talked about that. So we have the final approval for the 33 acres that got placed in a trust for the Ho-Chunk Nation. So hopefully that starts some action with our construction. So congratulations to everybody that touched this project over the last several years. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Day. Councilor Terrell.
Well, I will say, we had a Mayoral Community Day, which I talked about last meeting that we had, and I wanted to say thank you to City Manager Lori Luther for attending, and also President Regina Duncan. I know seeing that y'all really enjoyed yourselves and enjoyed the band, the Mayoral Elementary lights and everything, and it was good. It was a very, very, very good turnout. Also, Chief Sales, thank you for being there as well. We were able to bring in like a lot of city resources and a lot of people who are involved in anything to do with Beloit as far as like what the people would need in the BIPOC community and neighborhood of, you know, services that those people would need. And it was just like a very welcoming event. The kids had fun. There was bouncy houses all over the place. And I wanted to clarify last time I said we was going to have bottle rockets. It was actually like water bottle rockets that would shoot up in the air. I didn't want to scare nobody. We didn't have like fireworks or anything like that going on. But it was a really good time. The people in the community really appreciated it. And it was a lot of good feedback. They were happy to see like city leaders such as myself. I mean, of course, I work at Mayoral Elementary, but of course, Lori Luther being there, President Duncan, it was just a really good time. And the people really appreciated the attention that was brought to that neighborhood. It's, you know, like a lot of people feel like it's a forgotten neighborhood. It's like a lot of things, a lot of opportunity over there that needs to be presented to the people in that neighborhood, and we definitely showed a lot of people that we care, and it was very much appreciated. So hopefully we do more of that in the future. But I just wanted to say thank you again for that, and leave it there.
Thank you, Councilor Terrell. Next, Vice President Forbeck.
Yes, mainly I'd like to talk, actually for the second time now, about the SLATS meeting that I attended today. I hope that former Vice President Keyes is listening in, because I know that a lot of the things she was concerned about, there's a lot happening here. And one of the exciting things that I can announce today, and it falls under our issue of sustainability for the whole city, is that the city was able to purchase 3 mowers that are electric mowers. And because Vice President Keyes was very concerned about sustainability, and in 2 years, having these 3 electric mowers will save, I just couldn't believe this, 15,000 gallons of gasoline. So the city is, in fact, being a careful conservator, and we are marching on as soon as we get the money to be able to pay for these things. And the money is coming from the infrastructure bill. And also kudos to our staff at Public Works, because the money became available very quickly. It had a very quick turnaround, and they had to really jump to it, and they located these 3 mowers, and we are able to purchase them. They're very expensive, but will be really good for the city. So I'm just delighted to talk to people. I think very often they look at us and think nothing is happening, nothing is happening. Things are really happening and people are paying attention. So that's it.
Thank you, Vice President Forbeck. Next, Councilor Blakely.
Thank you, Madam President. This coming Wednesday, May 18th, the City of Beloit Police Department will host the Rock County Law Enforcement Memorial Service at the Harry Moore Pavilion in Riverside Park at 6 p.m. During the ceremony, law enforcement from throughout the county will honor officers who have lost their lives. Just in case of rain, the ceremony will move to the Barkin Arena at Beloit Memorial High School. Did I get all those details right, Chief?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's at 3 o'clock, but that's real once it stops.
Okay, thanks. And Thursday, there's another police department event. The Beloit Police Department badge pinning ceremony will take place at Beloit Public Library at 6 p.m. And the public is invited to both of these special events. Oh, here's a little tidbit. From the Beloit, Wisconsin government website about local history, law enforcement in Beloit began in 1857 with the creation of the Justice of the Peace, a sheriff, and 2 constables. In 1880, the police department was called the Anti-Horse Thief Association. So there, we've come a long way. A couple more quick things. Landmarks Commission, maintaining the beauty and character of Beloit's historic buildings and helping to improve neighborhoods throughout the city, meets here in the forum at 7 p.m., and anyone is welcome to sit in if you like. Beloit Public Library's Board of Directors meets Wednesday evening. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Blakely. Councilor Levy.
Thank you. Just to echo what Councilor Day said, that it was a fantastic time watching the boat launch. Beloit was well represented. Looking around, I was wondering who's left. We had Visit Beloit. We had the Vets Roll, who got a lot of recognition. We had a lot of staff up there. We were very well represented. A lot of compliments from the Navy officers, people that were there. Hats off to everyone involved in putting this together. And between keeping me and Councilor Day and Councilor Anderson kind of in line, Sarah and Jen were like watching us because we threatened to when Lori get up to stand up and cheer, and so we were making them a little nervous up there because we told them this is our chance to really show Beloit on the map, so we were really going to go all out, but they were really paying attention to us. But it really made you proud to be from Beloit. We often say Beloit proud, but to be there in that moment, it was just something you cannot even imagine, that your little city is like this, a ship named after it, and you're getting all the attention. And you would say you're from Beloit, and people would just beam, like, oh, you're from, so yeah, we had to take advantage of that and say, yeah, that ship, that's named after our city. So, but we had a great time. Thanks to everyone who had a hand in this. The speakers were great. City manager was outstanding. When it was time to break the bottle, it took about 5 times, and we're like, oh, this is not going to work. But eventually it happened, and just to see how they put the ship in the water, it was nothing gentle. It was just push it in there on its side, and we're like, okay, this is what happened. And I think the interesting piece is that that's the last time there's going to be a side launch like that. So now they're working on like an elevator type thing to lower it into the water. So we were part of history in that as well. So I think Beloit is very well represented. We should be proud, and I truly believe that this would not happen, as Tammy Baldwin said, if we didn't have the great things and the great people of Beloit constantly working to push the city forward. This would have never happened. So kudos to the entire Beloit community and staff, everyone who works for the city. So that's all I needed to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Next, Councilor Anderson.
Basically, both Kevin said about the christening, it was amazing. it was definitely a unique experience. So I was really glad that we could all be part of that. I also wanted to echo what Councilor Day said about the casino. I've often joked that that's my lifelong project because I basically beat the casino by a couple years, and then it started to rumble that it was going to happen, and here we are now, almost 29, and we're finally going to have this casino. So this is great. I also wanted to just say, since we have folks from SkyCarp here, love going to the games. Love that you have something beyond just baseball there. It's, you know, Quinn, I remember when you gave the presentation at the library a couple years ago about how people are going to go to this stadium not just to watch baseball, but to socialize and mingle. And the times I've been there, it's been absolutely that. And even the events too, you know, the ice skating, the movie nights, you know, I know Meals on Wheels, we did an event there too, that it's absolutely amazing to see it be used just, you know, for everything. And that was my concern when it first happened. I was like, oh, it's going to be an empty stadium. I was wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong. So thank you for everything you guys have done.
I think the amazing privately funded stadiums in minor league baseball. I think wonderful thing. Privately funded.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well said. Now for my report. I think I'm going to be reiterating what everyone else said, but I'll try to be as fast as I can. First, I want to begin by saying that I am grateful that the Bureau of Indian Affairs has given final approval for the Beloit Casino project. Thanks to Governor Evers, City Manager Luther, the Whole Chunk Nation, and all involved in helping this effort to move forward. This will certainly bring more jobs, entertainment, and much more to Beloit. Also, I want to mention, I forgot, I think in our last meeting, but a few weeks ago, the city manager and I, Councilor Anderson, and the Director of Public Works, along with Dan Shue, Frank McKernan, and others, were in Kohler, Wisconsin, in recognition of the Beloit College Powerhouse Riverwalk project. The city of Beloit and Beloit College received a 2022 Engineering Excellence Best of State Award. Special thanks to all those who helped make that project a success. Next, I want to share what many of my colleagues talked about tonight about the christening and launching celebration of the USS Beloit, which was wonderful. And what a high honor to have a literal combat ship be named after Beloit and sponsored by our very own Marsha Anderson, who was the first African-American woman to achieve the rank of Major General in the United States Army. That said, we are grateful to retired General Marsha Anderson, Fairbanks Morse Defense, Senator Tammy Baldwin, Lockheed Martin, Fincantieri, Marinette Marine, Gibbs and Cox, the more than 800 suppliers, architects, artists, Mark Finnegan, Vets Roll, the U.S. Navy and other armed services, veterans, students, our city staff, and everyone who made this significant effort possible. Thank you all. Together we continue to make Beloit proud. Now for my counselor activities. I went to the Mayoral Elementary School Community Day with Counselor Terrell, City Manager Luther, and we also had other staff there as well. There was Chief Sales, Officer Halverson, Officer Henderson, and Officer Robinson. And I believe it was a few others there as well. They were coloring with the children, and so I think this will be helpful in the future. That was one of the things, Quint, you talked about tonight, safety being important. And one of the things that our officers are doing is they're trying to engage with our community. And so that's helpful when we're trying to solve crimes and things of that nature. So they were right there with us. It was great to join them and see Principal Brandy Herford, the teachers, the community partners, and so many children and parents having fun. We all got on the dance floor, a few of us. And it was a great treat to watch the students perform with Drumline. The Youth Against Violence group joined in. I also had the opportunity to attend the Gateway Business Park Association Review Board meeting, and I participated as a speaker for the investiture ceremony for Judge Ashley Morris at the Rock County Courthouse on Friday. So I want to say congratulations to Judge Morris. I know that she will be an asset to our circuit court, and I wish her the very best. Also, I want to give my heartfelt condolences to Counselor Levy, my Aunt Francine Henson, and the Williams family for the loss of their matriarch, Evelyn Williams, who was 101 years old. Mother, and I call her Grandmother Williams, was the epitome of strength, grace, and virtue, and loved by all who knew her. Her great legacy will live on through her family and all the lives that have been touched by her, including mine. Let's keep their family in our thoughts and prayers. In closing, today I was just horrified, as many other people in the community are, about all of the incidents that are happening in our community and throughout the world. And I just want to leave with these words. I just want to encourage everyone in the public and throughout our community to please choose to spread love throughout Beloit and the entire world. This ends my council report for this evening. Next, we'll go to item 11.
11 is city manager presentation.
Well, thank you very much. And I feel incredibly guilty for asking Zach Brockman to be here on his anniversary. He is president of SkyCarp, and we wanted to let the public know that there is an exciting change for this year's fireworks display and 4th of July celebration. The SkyCarp have generously offered to have the display and activities at the ABC Supply Stadium. This will be a free, non-ticketed event for the public, and I would like to give him an opportunity to maybe share a few words. Certainly, we have details that still need to be fine-tuned over the course of the next month or 6 weeks. We know that when events are held at the stadium and it is sold out packed, there is still sufficient parking within the downtown area in order to get everyone where you need to be. And while not everyone loves the bird scooters, for those who are able to ride them, not gonna volunteer myself for that, but for those who want to use those to help scoot your way right over to the stadium, you can do that as well. But there will be festivities. The symphony was provided the option to perform as they historically have at the bandshell, and they have opted to perform at the ABC Supply Stadium in tandem with the fireworks display. Chief Sales is also, of course, here this evening and can speak to the police department's perspective and support for this venue in really having some crowd control mechanisms that Riverside Park simply does not offer due to just how it was designed. So we think this is a really exciting opportunity for Beloit. We look forward to this, and I would invite Zach to say a few words if that is the pleasure of the council.
We would like that.
Well, thank you guys so much, first of all. I've only been in Beloit now. I'm going on my 7th week. So, and I apologize, my wife couldn't stay. Our 2-year-old daughter, it's bedtime for her, so she needed to run back, and our babysitter had to get going. So, Lori did a great job, and first of all, it's great to meet you, Lori. I have not met you in person, but I'm honored to meet all of y'all in the coming weeks as well. But Lori covered a lot of it, but we are very, very excited, to partner with the city. And to get this thing done and put together a great fun event. So right now the gates are planning to open at 6:30. The symphony, as Lori confirmed, has agreed to come out, and we did a walkthrough with them last week. They really love the acoustics, that we can offer for our ballpark. So they have agreed to go on the field there and start their show at 7:30. We're going to coordinate the fireworks show right with the last song. So that'll be a really fun event to kill the lights right at that time, shoot up the fireworks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So in terms of other things going on in the park, we will have inflatables for kids. That'll be going the entire time. Our concessions will be open, the entire time as well, completely free. And fireworks to conclude the event itself. Some internal logistics. So with Chief here, in terms of security, we do offer a more controlled environment. We have EMT, which will be on site for the duration of the event. I'll work with the Chief here on security details, but we will also have our own internal security as well. Roughly about 1,000 parking spots or so, within a 10 to 15 minute walk, from the park. comfortable seats for 3,500 people. We're going to bring out our mascots, and hopefully our new mascot, which we're in the process of naming right now, will be in attendance for that as well. On-site concessions, as I mentioned, acoustic system, and more of that downtown synergy. You know, when my wife and I were considering moving to Beloit, obviously there's the advantages of ABC Supply Stadium and working with these two gentlemen here, which Quint and Jonathan Griffith, who honestly I've admired for a good portion of my 16-year career. But the real X factor was my wife and getting her to agree to move from California, where it's, you know, on average about 75 degrees, to Beloit, and especially in the winter months, no less. So I came down for my first visit, and I loved the town. I was sold pretty much right away, but I knew I had to bring her back to close the deal. And Hotel Goodwin with that rooftop bar, I think, was the finishing touch for her to want to move here as well. So we're really excited for this, and I hope the city and everyone else is too. And I'd be happy to answer any questions there are regarding the event.
Hey, Zach, I think it's really important. You know, my background is special needs, and I think the other nice part the stadium offers is access for people with various ambulatory issues. And I think that's really important because there, you know, we have ramps, we have seating, and I think this is people with disabilities will find this as an easier place probably to go and to enjoy themselves than maybe some other places. So I think that's also really important.
Zach, thank you, Clint. Zach, can you introduce yourself for the people from the public who are watching who may not know who you are?
Yes, so sorry. I should have done that at the beginning. Zach Brockman, team president, Beloit Skycarp. Jonathan just put a bug in my ear too. We have the most organized set of clean, awesome bathrooms as well for the entire public. In addition to Quint Sky.
You're welcome.
Very important.
As a member of the Riverbend Stadium Authority, you're welcome.
Yes. Are there any questions from any counselors or comments? Counselor Levy.
Just a question. Do you have other events coming in the summer, and are you going to publish those or put them around the city? Because I think you have a comedian coming.
We sure do. Jeff Dunham will be at our park for a show on July 24th. So yes, we're promoting that a lot internally, and definitely through the Beloit Downtown Association and all those other general social channels. But if you have any recommendations where you'd like to see that, we're trying to get that word out to anyone that'll listen, really. And we've done pretty well so far. We're looking at a show that can house about 6,000 people or so, and we're about halfway there in terms of ticket sales right now, which is really pacing well.
Yeah, maybe check with the library or something, or just put information out where you can set it out where people can see it. And I'm looking at Sarah. Maybe she has some ideas of where she could put it out too. So
I just wanted to mention too,
Absolutely.
if I could. One of the things I saw, Zach, and I don't know, it would look pretty neat to me, was like the pre-game, there's like pre-entertainment or something before the games or before the shows. I thought that was unique and different, so I really like that. So
Thank you.
wonderful. So keep putting your messaging out there. Yes.
The part about Jeff Dunham is about probably 80% of those people will be from outside Beloit, which gives them a chance to see all the great things that are happening here.
Right. So thank you very much, Zach.
Thank you very much.
Comment.
Go ahead with your
Thank
comment,
you.
Council.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you to the organization. I'm looking forward to spreading the word about our team and buying a whole lot of Skycarp paraphernalia before I go to visit family out west. So, yes, sir.
I wear this in Pensacola. It's my favorite hat.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
And
for all your
thank you
support.
for
Thank
that.
you.
Welcome, Zach.
Yes, welcome, Zach, and thank you very much. And we're looking forward to the fireworks. And then I'm hearing from, thanks for the clarification, City Manager Luther, and I know we'll be getting more details as things progress, so thank you. Okay. Item 12.
Item 12 is reports from boards and city officers. Item 12A is consideration of Resolution 2022-073, approving the continuation of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Beloit and the School District of Beloit for the School Resource Officer Program.
We'll have a presentation from Chief Sales.
It's going to be a short presentation because I'm in between adjournment. All right, so we have the extension for a pre-existing agreement, establish roles and responsibilities of both parties in maintaining a school resource officer program. For most of you that do not know, the Beloit Police Department started their school resource officer program in 1980. So we are the longest standing SRO program in the state of Wisconsin, and I think we're in the top 10 for the nation. The police department worked very closely with the school district personnel to update this agreement to ensure that the current laws and best practices to ensure effective and efficient response to incidents that occur within the city and our intermediate schools are taken care of by our police officers. This also allows for officers to be in the schools with the kids, to see them in a different role. The officers, last year, we looked at some of the uniforms that we were wearing. I went around to different agencies throughout Wisconsin and Illinois, and we changed some of our uniforms for the police officers. They wear khaki pants and a polo shirt to have that more personable connection with the students. Our MOU calls for a 1-year option with 3 additional annual renewal terms thereafter. The school district agrees to pay a prorated salary and benefits for the 3 school resource officers during the school year, excluding summer and breaks throughout the year. The SRO program remains an excellent opportunity to, like I said, engage students in an educational setting with the primary goals of creating a safe learning environment, prevention of crime, and reduction of delinquent acts. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Sales. This is a resolution, so may I please have a motion to approve the resolution first?
Move approval.
Moved by Councilor Levy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Forbeck. Are there any questions or discussion at this time? We'll begin with Vice President Forbeck.
Chief, where are the officers located? I mean, in what schools?
So we have Officer Lorenzo Henderson that works at East Side Intermediate Schools, so he goes to Aldridge and out to Fran Fruzen. Then we have Officer Christopher Hafes, who goes to Cunningham and McNeil on the west side. And then we have Officer Halverson, who works at the high school.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay, thanks.
Any other? Councilor Levy.
Just a couple of things. I know you're saying Officer Lorenzo does the two. Do you ever see the need where we may need an officer at all of the intermediate schools? I mean, just by this, so they're not splitting their time between 2 schools. I think there's always a need, just because you can't predict when something's going to happen. No, one thing we did talk about with the school board was the potential to have a 4th sometime within this agreement, not this year, but if we extend, looking at having a 4th, so therefore we can have a floater. But that's something that we're going to have to talk through contracts and so forth. So we've had that discussion, but it's something that we have to really dive into and really get to the nuts and bolts of what needs to happen. Okay, just 2 other questions. At some point, a couple months down the road, can we have a presentation so we can see what types of maybe arrests or what the SROs are dealing with in the schools? How many? Because we hear in the community that, you hear it too, the schools are terrible. But if we could just get an update of what the SROs face on a daily basis, how many arrests they may have, or what are the typical type of things they are stopping. I think that will help, as we talked about the messaging, getting the word out that, maybe not as bad as people think it is. So I'm not saying anytime like next week, but maybe within the next month or so, if we could get that. And then the final question I would have for you is, so not to put you on the spot, but to individuals who say we don't need officers in schools, that schools are safe enough without officers. If you don't feel comfortable commenting on that, I understand. But times have changed from when I was in school. And I think from my point of view, as a parent and even a grandparent, I welcome it because I can send my child or grandchild to school knowing that there's some sense of safety in there as much as possible. I don't know if you want to speak to that or comment. I'll answer your first question first. I do have our Lieutenant Elrod and Sergeant Jamie Linder. We are trying to do some things that's reoccurring, so we have data that we can present out when needed at the drop of a hat. So that's something that we have been working on. So we will present that to you at one of our meetings here coming in the next month or two. And then the second point, I hate to bring this up because it's fresh,
But I think a lot of people sometimes think we do not need police officers in places. But if you go back and think about Buffalo this last week, where there are people out enjoying their time, shopping for their family, and a person that's suffering from mental health issues takes it upon himself to end people's life senselessly. So you have to look at those things. It's not a if this happened, this is a when it's going to happen type of situation. So I will always stand up here and I will always say that we need police officers and we need more police officers to make sure everyone can enjoy their time peacefully.
May I?
City Manager Luther.
I wanted to add, if I may, because my husband and I have 4 children, and in June, 2 will have graduated from Beloit Memorial High School. My husband teaches there, and we've had our kids in elementary and in middle schools here in Beloit. The number of times that SROs have been involved directly in the schools in significant incidents is startling. And that's in every grade level. So as a parent, I can certainly tell you that I would not feel safe and would not feel that my children were as safe if we did not have this program in place. We've also seen neighboring communities, Waukesha, a year perhaps ago, a school resource officer stopped a shooting incident from happening. That is one of the key reasons they're there amongst many. But certainly, as a parent, it does give me a sense of relief in knowing that we do have those resources available. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, City Manager Luther. Are there any other further questions or discussion? Councilor Anderson.
I just want to say I've seen some of your officers in action at the school, not do anything dramatic, but just interacting with the kids, and I think it's been very positive. I saw nothing but positive interactions when I was there at the school, so I just want to commend the officers that are placed there as SROs. They're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I'll just echo that and just say thank you to all the officers who are putting their life on the line every day, going out and keeping us safe. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
At this time, there's a motion and a second to approve this resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
12B, the City Council may adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E, Wisconsin statutes to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session, namely to discuss the possible sale of 1531 Park Avenue. The council may reconvene into open session.
Do we need a motion to go into closed session? Moved by Vice President Forbeck. There's a second by Councilor Blakely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That's it. Motion carries. We are now in closed session.